Close to the Mexican border, a small town lies. It has one problem. No, it has two problems. It has not one gang, it has two gangs. But one man rides into the village, a man with no name. Who is he going to join? It is time to take a look at A Fistful of Dollars. This is not Sergio Leone's debut film as a director. He did work on some sword and sandal movies before this, but this is the movie that the most people talk about when they talk about his debut movie, and fine with me. It also was a movie that helped break Clint Eastwood, not to the American public, that would happen later. We will talk more about that later in the extended review. Oh yes, it's going to be an extended review to this one, don't you worry, and it will be a third video about this one, and I will talk about that one in the extended one. Cool? Everybody cool? Good. So Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name character, which technically really wasn't a man with no name, but we will talk more about that later. He arrives at this town, and as I said, they don't have one gang, they have two gangs, the Rojos and the Baxters. And now the Baxters makes the questionable choice of shooting at Clint Eastwood. Now the Man with No Name doesn't like this one. Stop with that, Joe. We call him Joe. So they shoot at Joe. You should never shoot at Clint Eastwood in a Sergio Leone movie. It is never a good idea. So 4 dead Baxters later, he has joined the Rojos. But will he be satisfied with working for the Rojos? The answer is no. Because Clint Eastwood is a clever and savvy and slightly cheeky fellow. He is willing to sell his fast hands and accurate gunplay to both teams basically, and maybe play them off each other. He basically serves two masters, and this is basically our movie. Right off the bat, this is an absolutely stellar movie. This is due to a couple of things. Clint Eastwood is one of the reasons, because Clint Eastwood is a fucking genius in this one. Knowing his limitations as an actor, in the script, Clint Eastwood's character was a quite talky person. And he simply cut away lots and lots and lots of his lines. His idea was elevate his strength and hide the weaknesses, because when Clint Eastwood talks, you can hear his limitation as an actor, and you can tell yourself, thank God he decided to remove so much dialogue. He's not your clean-cut do-gooder. He's a watcher. He observes all the time, and we're never quite sure what he's going to do, unless you've seen the movie, of course, but that's a no-brainer. Also the fact we have no idea about his background. He comes from nowhere, he's going nowhere. He doesn't reveal anything about himself, save for one thing later in the movie. But his character is shrouded in mystery, and that makes for a great hero. Is probably the wrong word. This is an anti-hero if I've ever seen one. However, the leader of the Rojos, Ramon, is an absolute sadist who by default turns Clint Eastwood into an absolute hero, because he's willing to, shoot both women and children and laugh when he's doing it. Another thing that makes this movie truly epic and great is, of course, Sergio Leone himself, because frankly, the story isn't that great. His way of handling actors isn't, fantastic, but how he places the camera, how he presents things, how he shoots things, everything looks amazing, everything looks huge and epic. It is a complete different, because this movie pays some homage to the classic movie Shane. In Shane, the hero is a small man riding in on a big horse. Here is a big man riding in on a small horse, or in this case a mule. This movie is surface over substance, but I don't care because it is so enjoyable. Also, a very clever thing that Sergio Leone does in this movie is always keeping us guess what's going to happen, because we are 10 minutes behind every step of the way. We don't know what they're going to do. They show us stuff that we don't know why he's showing us, but later we realize, hey, wait a minute, that's why he shows that stuff. That is great. Also, we have to talk about Ennio Morricone. Ennio Morricone is an absolute genius. Ennio Morricone's music is fantastic. This is one of the best soundtracks that has ever been made. His use of whip cracks, weird noises, Fender Stratocasters, and trumpets and weird instruments creates this unique feeling that goes throughout the entire movie. He even has Italian Renaissance music at one point in this one, because that is what a Western should have, obviously, of course. Despite this being a very low budget production, they make this movie look great. Makes them look like 50 million bucks basically. In some cases, however, you can see that it was a very low budget movie, and sometimes you can see that this is a B movie, which it was totally. Some people also might find it distracting because we have West German actors, Spanish actors and Italian actors. Everybody speaks their native language, and then they were dubbed to English, which may look a little weird, but after a while you get used to it. Sergio Leone's style also is what makes this movie truly great and epic, because he has this weird angle and focus on various things and extreme perspectives when Clint Eastwood looks like he's about 50 feet tall or something like that. We also have these amazing moments of tension when you're thinking to yourself, Jesus Christ, what's going to happen now? Like Tarantino was going to do decades later. Sergio Leone knew that it wasn't the killing or the violence that was the thing that grabbed the audience, it was what happened before. This is also his most fast-paced movie. This is, I think this is the only one he did who clocked in under 2 hours. And this movie's really only problem is the fact that after this one, For a Few Dollars More and The Good and the Bad, The Ugly came, and standing behind those two behemoths, this one seems a little bit so-and-so. Now, with that said, this is a great and superb movie, no doubt about it, but compared to those two, it shrinks in comparison. But if you have never seen a spaghetti western before, hang your head in shame and then go and watch some. You can start with this one. If you've seen it and you like it, see it again. I rewatched it for the purpose of this one very recently, and I was blown away on how good it is. Despite this being made 1964, it still holds up. It still delivers on every cylinder. From the amazing rotoscope title sequence, to the great music, to the actions, to the suspense, to the absolutely amazing ending. And the final showdown is a cinema classic that if you have never seen it before, I envy you to be able to see it for the first time. Jesus, it is great. While some of the acting is a little clunky and some things look a little, shady in some cases, it's not a big problem. What this is, beyond any doubt, is a classic. If you don't like westerns, this is maybe a western that could turn you around. However, if you like the more clean-cut Gary Cooper western types of westerns, then this is probably not for you. In other case, you should definitely go and watch this one again, because it is great, and Leone never made a single bad movie through his entire career, you heard me. This is a bit of a tricky one, because nobody can look at the rating of 82 and say, nah, that is unworthy of a movie of this size and this magnitude. But I can't give it any higher rating, and I'm gonna tell you why. it isn't that the movie isn't great or anything, it's fantastic. But there is a problem here, and that is called that movies affect other movies, and I cannot look apart from it. Because if we have the Dollar Trilogy, then I can't help by glancing at For a Few Dollars More and The Good, and Bad, and the Ugly, and they are 50 Shades of fucking awesome. This one is just very, 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 very good. It's very good. It do have some flaws, and by this point, Sergio Leone hadn't found his true filmmaking form yet. It is almost there, but not quite. So take it for what it is. It is a fantastic movie, but if it would have been the only one of its kind, it would probably get a higher rating, almost up to 90 maybe. But I just can't help but comparing it a little bit to the two other in the Dollar Trilogy. So that was A Fistful of Dollars. And if you want to know some more fascinating details about this one, I would advise you to stick around, because we're gonna have a little something called the extended review. So take it away until next time. This is the Wikstrand signing out.